She was hired to investigate the richest man alive. But the man who opened the door wasn't the one they warned her about. And now she's falling for someone who doesn't exist. The file was too thin. Not in weight, in silence. Eleanor Briggs, 49, had held dozens of confidential dossiers in her hands over the years. Some bloated with history, some carefully redacted. But this one felt like it had been starved. One photo, black and white, taken from a distance. A man, tall, straight-backed, walking between two cars. His face partially turned. The outline of his jaw defined, unreadable. His expression neutral, or maybe blank, or maybe just tired. Beneath it, Nathaniel Voss, CEO of Voss Holdings. Estimated net worth, $8.3 billion. And then a sentence stamped in red at the bottom. Subject has not made a verified public appearance in 941 days. That was it. No family, no movements, no board minutes with his signature, no property records updated in the last 3 years. Just a list of Voss Holdings subsidiaries in decline, investor rumors swirling about a silent merger, and a memo marked urgent, priority black from Eleanor's handler. Infiltrate estate. Confirm his presence. Assess behavior. Do not initiate contact. Do not let him know you're observing. And yet, 5 weeks later, Eleanor sat in the back of a silent black car, winding up a mountainside road as pine trees blurred past tinted glass. She wasn't nervous. Not exactly, but something pressed at her, the kind of unease that came not from fear, but from a story missing too many pages. The Voss estate appeared slowly, not in one grand reveal, but piece by piece. Concrete balconies peeking between trees, glass walkways suspended in open air, black paneling that seemed to absorb the winter light instead of reflect it. It didn't look like a home. It looked like a containment zone for someone who didn't want the world to touch him again. The car stopped without a sound. A woman, tall, lean, wearing gray like it was armor, opened the door for her. She didn't smile, didn't speak, just nodded once and gestured toward the entrance. The house swallowed her whole. Eleanor's boots echoed against stone floors. The ceilings stretched 3 stories in places, then narrowed in others like the building had been designed to breathe in and out. Every surface gleamed, not with luxury, with sterility. No flowers, no warmth, only function. She was shown to a guest room that might have once belonged to a very expensive ghost. Minimalist art, fresh linens, no photos, no soul. A small tablet waited on the bedside table. Welcome. You have been contracted for a rotating domestic assistant post. Mr. Voss does not engage with staff. Please perform duties quietly and efficiently. Infractions are logged. Questions are discouraged. That was all. The silence wasn't an oversight. It was the design. She didn't see him the first day, or the second. On the third, she was walking toward the west corridor to check the logistics inventory when she felt it. That shift in air, that sense that she was no longer alone. She looked up, and there he was, the man from the photo. Or maybe not. He was younger than she expected, or just leaner, more sun-starved, dressed in black, barefoot, not quite gaunt, but close. His jaw was sharp, his mouth unreadable, but his eyes, steel blue, and hollow, like he had lived too many days without speaking out loud. He didn't stop, just walked past her, slow, deliberate. But he looked at her, not vaguely, not like staff, like he knew she didn't belong. And for reasons she couldn't explain, Eleanor looked back. Not because it was her job, not because she was suspicious, because in that brief, breathless moment, she recognized the silence in him. It wasn't rage. It wasn't paranoia. It was grief. Heavy, tightly leashed grief. Something he had locked inside this house and didn't dare let out. That night, Eleanor opened her encrypted laptop, began to type, but she paused at the first line. Subject Nathaniel Voss located. Alive, estate secure, minimal interaction. Her fingers hovered. Then, slowly, she deleted his name. The estate wasn't built to welcome. It was built to contain. Eleanor figured that out on her 4th day, when she noticed how the exterior windows, though enormous, didn't open. How every hallway curved slightly, never giving a full line of sight. how the cameras were hidden in places that made no logical sense unless you were watching from the inside. This house wasn't designed to protect Nathan Voss from the world. It was designed to protect the world from whatever Nathan Voss had become. And yet, for all its architecture and wealth, the house was strangely analog. No digital assistants, no wireless systems, no visible tech beyond the old wall tablets used for room assignments and task reminders. Even the security was physical, passcodes, keys, handwritten logs. It made Eleanor's job harder, but it also made something else very clear. He didn't trust automation, or eyes he couldn't see. That meant whatever secrets this place held, they weren't in the cloud. They were in the walls. She began where anyone would, the supply ledger. Every estate of this size required maintenance. Food deliveries, staff schedules, medical visits. She found a hardbound journal in the kitchen office, tucked inside a drawer behind the wine fridge. Unlabeled, only half full. She flipped through it quickly. Most entries were routine, until she hit one that froze her mid-page. 2/19, confirmed delivery, AV, arrived with necessary dosage. It was in a different hand, slanted, sharp, and the initials? AV, not in, not Nathan. She searched again. There were 6 entries across the months, all marked AV. One specifically logged a prescription pickup from a private lab. Another, a rescheduled biometric scan. She looked up. The house was quiet, distant, listening. That night, she logged into the encrypted portal and ran a search across property records. Voss Holdings, Mountain Estate, registered owner, Nathaniel J. Voss. Co-owner listed, Adrian C. Voss, revoked June 11th, for years ago. Her breath caught. There were 2. No media file had ever mentioned a brother. No article, no obituary, no family statement. Just one vanished CEO, just one name in every headline. But the house didn't lie. The house remembered them both. And if Adrian's name had been revoked, what happened to him? Why had it been erased? And why was the man she saw in the hallway, the one with steel blue eyes and bare feet, logged in the staff book 3 nights ago as AV in West Wing? Unscheduled. She closed the file. A chill ran up her spine. The next morning, a note appeared on her room tablet. Mr. Voss will require a tray left outside the music room. 7 p.m., no contact. She didn't even know the house had a music room. But she found it down the east corridor, 2 floors up, behind a locked glass door that opened with her keycard. Inside, an untouched grand piano, a wall of violins and cellos, and a cracked window that let in air for the first time since she arrived. She didn't step inside. She just placed the tray down gently and turned to leave. Then she heard it. A single, sustained note from the piano. Low, unmistakable. She froze. Then another. Then 2 more. And then silence. She didn't turn around. Didn't breathe. Because the hand that had touched those keys was not playing. It was remembering. And whatever it remembered had nothing to do with business. It had to do with a name the world never learned. Adrian. By the end of the week, Eleanor wasn't just observing the house. She was reading it. Like a person. Every hallway carried a mood. Every corridor seemed to breathe. A little too cold, a little too quiet. Nothing felt random. Even the softest sounds, a drawer opening, the hush of shoes on polished concrete, echoed with intention. The staff rarely made eye contact. Not out of rudeness, but reverence. It was like everyone who worked here had sworn an unspoken vow. Not just to protect Nathan Voss's privacy, but to guard something sacred, or dangerous, or both. And Eleanor couldn't ignore it anymore. Someone in this house wasn't supposed to be here. She first felt it in the West Wing. Technically, she wasn't assigned to it. Her domestic detail had been strictly confined to the Lower East, kitchens, linens, guest entry. But that morning, when she passed the North Corridor, she noticed one door slightly ajar. Not an invitation. In forgetting, the room inside was simple, smaller than the others. Warm, less staged. A blanket thrown carelessly over a reading chair. A stack of philosophy books with page corners folded. A coffee mug, empty but recently used. Dust caught the light in the window like glitter. This room was lived in. by someone who'd been told to disappear and never did. She moved quietly. No cameras here, no security panel, only a single warped nightstand beside the bed, and a drawer that didn't quite close. She pulled it open. Nothing, or so it seemed. She felt the air shift near her knee. Then she saw it, a narrow vent panel tucked just beside the lower shelf, screwed in loosely. She knelt, fingers tracing along the edges, finding just enough give to pull it free. Inside, a small envelope sealed in dark red wax, tucked far enough back to avoid any careless hand. She hesitated, then broke the seal. Inside was a folded photograph, black and white, slightly yellowed with time. She held it up to the light. Two men, same height, same bone structure, standing side by side in a snow-covered field, pine trees behind them. One wore a thick coat, collar up, smile just touching the edges of his mouth. The other, clean-shaven, hands in pockets, stood straighter, eyes colder, chin slightly lifted. On the back, in delicate handwriting, Nathaniel and Adrian, Vermont, '09. But something else was there too. A name, crossed out, violently. Nathaniel. Once, then again, and then a third time, darker, as if the pen had broken under the pressure. Eleanor stared at the photo. Her heart didn't race. It slowed, because she wasn't just seeing faces. She was seeing ghosts. The man she passed in the hallway days ago, barefoot, silent, was not the man with the cold eyes. He was the one with the soft jaw, the one who looked at her without agenda, the one whose grief poured off him like fog in the corridor. She tucked the photo back in the envelope, pressed it to her chest, and exhaled through her teeth. This wasn't just a missing person case. It was a replacement. Someone had erased Adrian from public record, and now someone had erased Nathaniel from this house. She returned to the staff logbook that night, opened the terminal using the backdoor passcode she'd seen another cleaner input earlier. Meal records, room checks, shift logs. She found it in a quiet margin. 2 a.m. tray, left at door. Not Nathan. No signature. No context. No explanation. Just that one note, handwritten like a whisper. Not Nathan. The next night, a storm rolled down from the ridge. The wind howled against the house. Snow clawed at the windows like fingers on glass. And Eleanor couldn't sleep. Not because of fear, because of knowing. She got out of bed, walked barefoot through the gallery corridor, past steel sculptures that seemed to twist in the shadows, past the piano that hadn't made another sound since that single mournful chord. That's when she saw it. A faint glow under the east wing sealed door. Not electric, candlelight. She moved closer, her breath fogging slightly in the cold air. She placed one palm to the wood. She didn't knock. She whispered, "Which one of you is left?" From the other side, the light blinked out, as if whoever stood behind it had been listening the whole time, and didn't want to be known. The snow hadn't stopped in 3 days. It swept across the Thorn Ridge like a living thing, swallowing the mountain in waves of white until the world outside the estate felt like myth. From inside the house, the glass panes were covered in frost, the trees invisible, the sky erased. The staff moved slower. Speech dwindled to single syllables. Even light seemed to dim earlier than it should. The estate had gone quiet, not empty, just waiting, and Eleanor could feel it, in her bones, in the corners of every room. Something in this house had happened, and the house remembered. She started with blueprints. She found them by accident, buried inside a locked cabinet in the East Wing linen closet, rolled tight in weatherproof tubing. There were 4. The original build plan, 2 revisions, and 1 unmarked layout labeled only with a red wax seal across the top flap. She opened it carefully, and there, in neat architectural notation, was a floor she hadn't seen before. Sublevel B, not a basement, a bunker, connected only through a coded elevator that hadn't functioned in years. Adrian's name was listed in the margin on an electrical note, not as architect, as internal project lead. Eleanor's breath caught. He built something below, and someone erased it. That night, she returned to the maintenance corridor off the laundry wing, a place she had passed twice before but never entered. It didn't match the others. No decor, no security panel, just a steel door and a faint hum behind it. The keypad had no label. She stared at it for 10 long seconds, then typed A.V.0611. It opened on the first try. The air inside smelled like dust and old wiring. 3 screens glowed quietly from the far wall. A chair was pulled halfway out. This wasn't a command center. It was a forgotten room, or one meant to be. 2 monitors were active. One dark. She approached. Each screen ran looping feeds of different areas in the house. Kitchen, south entrance, garage. Unassuming. But the third monitor, dark, displayed a blinking prompt. Enter code to access archive footage. Her hands hovered. She tried a name. Failed. Tried a birth date. No match. Then paused, thinking back to the photo she'd found hidden in the vent. Vermont, 2009. She typed Vermont 09. The screen unlocked. Dozens of folders appeared, each stamped by year, then event tag. She scrolled to one that made her blood still. June 11th, arrival sequence. Logged, 2 subjects. The video loaded in low resolution. The estate's front drive. A cold, wet evening. Rain on the stone. 2 black SUVs pulling through the gate. From the first car stepped Nathaniel. Sharp, suited, eyes narrow. His energy screamed calculation. From the second, Adrian. Same build, same DNA, but a different kind of presence entirely. He moved slower. No entourafe, no tia. Just a long black coat and a leather-bound folder tucked under his arm. They didn't speak on camera, but Nathan gestured once toward the door. Adrian hesitated, then walked inside. The screen blurred, the camera angle shifted, and the next timestamp skipped forward 6 hours. No other entries logged. Until the following night, 10:47 p.m. Same hallway. Nathaniel emerged. Alone. His coat the same. His pace calm. He didn't run. He didn't look back. He stepped into the waiting vehicle and left. That was the last recorded footage from the primary security archive. Eleanor leaned forward, heart pounding. She rewound. Played it again. Then once more. The car arrived with 2 brothers. But only one ever walked out. And since that night, Nathaniel Voss had not been seen in public again. She didn't remember how long she stayed in that room. Time bled out around her. The truth was no longer theory. It was recorded, and the man living above her, haunting the music room, watching from the dark, wasn't Nathan. He was the one the world had never known, the one someone tried to erase, the one who hadn't meant to survive. Upstairs, wind howled against the windows. The house groaned. Eleanor closed the monitor, turned off the screen, and walked out without making a sound. She didn't file her report that night. She didn't sleep. She only wrote one word in her encrypted journal, the one the agency would never see. Adrian. She waited until the house was sleeping. Not just the staff, the walls. There was a time, Eleanor thought, when every breath she took in this estate would have been heard by someone. Watched. Logged. And yet tonight, it felt still. Like even the silence had gone to bed. Like the house itself was waiting to hear what she would say. She made no noise as she walked. No tablet in hand. No gloves. Just the envelope with the photograph, creased now at the edges from being folded and unfolded so many times. She didn't go to the piano room. She didn't go to the west hallway, where the security feeds had once hummed behind cold glass. She went to the music room. The one that always smelled faintly of cedar and dust. The one where he left his grief in half-played notes. The door was cracked open just enough. She pushed it gently, and there he was, Adrian, standing barefoot beside the grand piano, in a black sweater and loose drawstring pants, as if sleep had almost taken him and then let him go again. He didn't turn, didn't flinch. He just said softly, "You've seen it." She didn't lie. She didn't hedge. Yes. Still, he didn't look at her. His voice, when it came again, sounded like stone warming beneath snow. "You're not with the board. You're not a housekeeper. So what are you?" She stepped into the room. Someone who was sent to find him. His eyes closed, just for breath. Not in fear, not in guilt, in grief. Then, softly, like it wasn't meant for her, he said, "He always wanted to disappear. I just never thought he'd take me with him." Eleanor moved closer. She didn't sit. She didn't offer comfort. She simply asked, Why did you stay? That made him look at her, full in the face. Not as staff, not a spy, as someone. And for the first time since she arrived, he looked alive. Because someone had to remember her, he said. He gestured toward the wall. Eleanor followed his gaze. There, tucked into a frame that had once held abstract art, was a photo of a woman. Late 30s. Candid smile. Blonde hair in a messy braid. Sketchbook in her lap. Laughter in her eyes. Madeline. Eleanor felt her pulse catch. She'd read her name once, buried in an old merger file. The woman Nathaniel Voss was supposed to marry. The one who vanished. The one the press claimed had run. Adrian's voice cut through the quiet. She loved this house. Before he turned it into a bunker. Before he made it a prison. She wanted it filled with light and sound and movement. I stayed because I didn't know where else she still existed. He stepped back from the piano. His hands curled slightly at his sides, like he wanted to reach for something. But there was nothing left to touch. Nathan thought disappearing was the only way to protect the company. The name, the myth. But I never cared about any of that. I just wanted her to come home. Eleanor felt something shift behind her ribs. Not pity, not sympathy, recognition. She had lost things too. She had kept silent, too long, in too many rooms that weren't hers. She moved forward and set the photo envelope on the piano. Adrian looked down, saw the brothers. His name circled in red. Nathan's crossed out. He didn't speak, didn't react. He just sat down on the piano bench, rested his hands over the keys. But he didn't play. He whispered, "You should report this. You should tell them I'm here." Eleanor's voice was quiet, steady. "Maybe I will." Then she stepped back, her hand brushing the edge of the doorway. But not yet. Eleanor had found secrets before. In offshore statements, broken metadata trails, boardroom whispers. But nothing like this. Nothing so personal. This wasn't a trail someone accidentally left behind. It was one someone died trying to hide. The sketchbook still sat on her desk. Madeline's sketches weren't just lines and shading. They were documents. Architecture, finance, guilt, pain hidden in the curve of a pencil. But Eleanor knew it wasn't enough. The sketchbook proved Madeline saw something, but it didn't prove what it was. And it didn't prove who made her disappear. That meant one thing. She needed evidence from outside this house. She started in the property archive, a vaulted records room sealed behind the east wing, never mentioned in the staff terminal. The room smelled like paper and glue and 20 years of silence. Files lined the walls in color-coded sleeves, but no digital backups. Not even a camera. She didn't have to search long. Residency asset reallocation, 7.2019. The folder was slim, half-filled, and the top document chilled her. Transfer of title, Lake Glen, MT, from Voss Holdings to Madeline Sorens. No co-signer, no advisory note, no trustee authorization. It had been a gift, issued just 6 weeks before her disappearance. Buried, never logged in the press or legal disclosures. Madeline hadn't run. She was trying to protect herself, and someone wanted her isolated. Below the deed was a manila envelope, sealed, not with wax, but with adhesive residue, torn at the edge like someone opened it fast and resealed it without care. Inside, a printed email, partial metadata, sent from an internal Voss email to an off-network address. Date, the night Dean Hallberg died. I told her, it's all there. If they find me first, it won't look like what it is. But you'll know. It's not the storm that kills. It's who sends it. Dean's name was never listed, but the writing matched his archived statement. And the attachment? A photo. Blurry. From a distance. Madeline at the cabin, talking to someone just off frame. Eleanor studied the shape of the second figure. It wasn't Nathan, and it wasn't Adrian. It was shorter, thicker, a man she recognized. The CFO. She flipped the photo over, scrawled in pen. Final contact. She knew. By nightfall, she was back in the music room. Adrian stood at the piano again, but didn't play. He looked at her once, then looked away. Eleanor set the folder down. No words. He opened it slowly, read the email, looked at the photo, and then sat. Dean loved her like a sister, Adrian said. His voice was even, flat. They met years before Nathan did. She trusted him with everything. And when she couldn't go to the press, she gave it to him. Eleanor asked softly, "And he gave it to you?" Adrian nodded. "After she disappeared. Before they got to him. And you've been sitting on this for 3 years." He didn't defend it. He didn't deflect. "I didn't think anyone would believe it. I wasn't sure I even did." Eleanor's eyes narrowed on the letter. She left breadcrumbs, Adrian. In every sketch, every margin, she thought someone would finish it, not run from it. Adrian looked up, and for the first time, his expression cracked. She wasn't afraid of dying. She was afraid no one would know why. Eleanor opened the final pocket of the file. A small slip of paper, folded once, tucked between pages. Madeline's handwriting, delicate, focused. "If they erase me, make sure they never erase the reason." Not a plea, a command. And Eleanor understood. This wasn't about one woman's death. It was about every woman like her who'd been bought, silenced, discarded, and forgotten. The fire had burned low in the conservatory, casting long, fractured shadows along the stone floor. Adrian sat on the edge of the fireplace bench, elbows on his knees, eyes fixed on the glowing embers like they were telling him something only he could hear. He didn't speak for a long time, and when he finally did, it wasn't with explanation, it was with guilt. "I should have stopped her." Eleanor said nothing. She sat across from him, sketchbook open in her lap, Madeline's notes like ghost ink under her fingertips. "You tried," she said softly. Adrian shook his head. "Not hard enough." His voice was rough. Not broken, but bruised, like it had been grinding inside his chest for years. Madeline wasn't trying to expose the company. She didn't care about bringing Voss Holdings down. All she wanted was the abuse to stop. That's it. He looked at Eleanor, and she thought if Nathan knew, he'd fix it. He didn't. Adrian hesitated. Then he tried, but not the way she wanted. He wanted silence, settlements, quiet consequences. He thought that was mercy. She didn't. No, she called it betrayal. Eleanor's eyes dropped to the sketchbook. Page after page of architectural renderings, some incomplete, some blurred with eraser marks. In the margins, names, payment codes, notations. Then dates. What are these? The women. Everyone she found. Victims. He nodded. 3 confirmed. 2 more she suspected. They were silenced with payouts through an internal holding account named after a dead LLC in Tokyo. The CFO arranged everything. He created it years ago, long before Nathan caught on. Eleanor frowned. Then why didn't Nathan fire him? Adrian exhaled. Because Madeline was the only one with proof. And when she disappeared, that proof vanished with her. Until Dean. Adrian nodded. He tried to get it out. The emails. The files. But the night before he was scheduled to hand it off to a journalist, his car went off the road. Zen. Brakes cut. They called it an accident. Eleanor remembered the leaked email. It won't look like what it is. She felt it now, not just sadness, but rage. The cold, focused kind that doesn't burn out. You stayed because you couldn't prove it. No, I stayed because someone had to hold the pieces together. The house, the name, her memory. I couldn't leave knowing they'd rewrite it all without me here. He stood and walked to a hidden cabinet beside the fireplace. Inside was a thick, dust-covered binder. He handed it to her. This is everything Dean gave me. Backups, handwritten logs, guaitras. Eleanor opened the binder and stopped. Tucked in the very front, a sealed envelope. Madeline's handwriting. To Eleanor Briggs. Her blood ran cold. She looked up. Adrian's voice was steady now. She didn't know your name, but she knew someone would come. Someone from the outside. Someone who wouldn't play by their rules. Eleanor broke the seal. The letter was dated 3 weeks before Madeline disappeared. I don't believe in martyrs. I believe in witnesses. If you found this, it means I failed. But if you choose to act, I didn't disappear for nothing. Don't mourn me. Finish me. She lowered the letter slowly. Her hands weren't shaking. Her mind was. This wasn't a story anymore. This wasn't a mission. It was a handoff, and it had just landed in hers. Adrian crossed the room and took the letter from her hand, folding it with a reverence that felt like ceremony. You don't owe me anything, he said. You can walk out of here and never look back. Burn it. Forget it. Say you found nothing. Or Eleanor's voice was calm, but firm. I become a thing they didn't see coming. His face twitched just once. A flash of something halfway between fear and hope. He reached into his pocket and handed her a small silver flash drive. Encrypted backup, full files, financials, legal correspondence, all of it. She closed her hand around it. If I do this, it will destroy them. It won't bring her back. I know. Then she paused. Her voice dropped, but it'll make sure they never forget her again. The next morning, Eleanor moved like a woman packing up a life that was never hers. She didn't rush, didn't leave anything behind. She folded Madeline's sketchbook into her bag, tucked the flash drive deep beneath the lining, and slipped the sealed letter, the one addressed to her, written by a woman she never met, into the inner pocket of her coat. She didn't say goodbye to the staff. She didn't need to. They knew. You could see it in the way no one met her eyes, in the way the hallway lights dimmed slightly as she passed, like the house itself understood what was coming. This wasn't an exit. It was a reckoning. Adrian waited in the music room. No fire burned this time. No piano played. He stood beside the open window, pale morning light cutting across his profile. Wind curled through the curtains, cold and quiet. The snow had begun to melt. Small runnels of water slid down the glass in slow, steady lines. He didn't speak as she entered, didn't ask what she decided. Instead, he said something that wasn't a question at all. If I tell you I want you to stay, it would be for the wrong reason. Eleanor didn't flinch. And if I stay for the right one, it won't be with you. Their eyes locked. No anger, just clarity. The kind that comes when two people finally realize neither of them was meant to last inside this house. He stepped forward, placed a small envelope in her hand. Inside, a slip of paper with a single login code. Encrypted ledger, he said. Every dollar they used to silence her. She nodded, slipped it into her wallet, and zipped her bag shut. Then, just as she turned, he said it. If you tell the truth. His voice caught, then steadied. Do I lose you too? She stopped, not because she didn't have an answer, but because the answer mattered more than either of them wanted to admit. She looked at him, not as a man who'd lied, or hidden, or waited too long, but as someone who had stayed when it would have been easier to run. You never had me to lose. Then, gently, but you kept her, and I won't let them erase that. She left alone. No escort, no handlers, just the mountain road unspooling before her like a question she already knew how to answer. At the final turn before the gate, she paused, pulled out the burner phone the agency gave her. No contacts, no messages, just one number, Echo HQ. She dialed. A dry voice answered on the first ring. Status. Eleanor stared out at the pine trees beyond the fence line, at the house behind her, at the man inside it, still standing at the window. Target deceased, she said. A pause. Confirmed. Her lips parted. Then, with calm finality. Confirmed. She ended the call, snapped the phone in half, tossed it into the woods without looking, and drove. She didn't go back to the city. She went to the lake. Madeline's cabin sat quiet beneath the trees, untouched. A thin dusting of snow covered the porch. Wind moved through the evergreens like a hush that had waited 5 years for someone to return. Inside, everything was as Madeline left it. A mug on the table, an open sketch pad, a coat on the hook. Eleanor didn't clean it. She sat in the chair, lit a fire, and opened her laptop. Then she uploaded everything. The files, the ledger, Dean's logs, Madeline's letter, the names, the settlements, the code Adrian gave her, the story, no aliases, no edits, no commentary. She let Madeline speak and sent it to 6 outlets. 2 would bury it. 1 would try to spin it. But the rest? They'd know. The article dropped 4 days later. The woman they buried, what Voss Holdings tried to erase. The CFO vanished. The board collapsed. Nathaniel's name was scrubbed from public documents. But one sentence burned across every feed. She didn't run. She was erased. 2 weeks later, Eleanor received a package. No label, no name. Inside, a photo. Adrian standing at the lake. Same trees, same silence. Sketchbook in hand. Madeline's scarf around his neck. On the back, in handwriting she now knew by heart. She wasn't afraid of dying. She was afraid of being forgotten. Thank you for remembering her. Hey,